Welcome to Science for Progress. The 21st century presents humanity with challenges at unprecedented scales. We believe that empirical evidence and scientific understanding are fundamental to mastering these challenges and to achieve societal progress in a globalized world. To advocate for science and its role in society, we are building an online community and we organize live events in Portugal, where we are based. With this podcast mini-series, we want to introduce ourselves to you. Each episode features a conversation between a member of the Science for Progress team and me, Dennis Eckmeyer, the initiator of Science for Progress and host of this podcast. Today I'd like to introduce you to Hugo Bettencourt.
Hi.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Tell us about you. So you're 22?
I am 22. Right now I'm in the year of my master thesis. I'm doing a master thesis in biomedical engineering here in Lisbon, Portugal, where I've been living for the past 22 years of my life. And right now I'm doing a thesis on a particular topic in neuroscience, more related to the neural imaging of climbing fibers in the cerebellum. Mm-hmm. And I'm very passionate of neuroscience. I've always been. And now that I'm working directly to it, I'm really excited, trying to see where life takes me, basically.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'm also a neuroscientist, as you know.
As I know, yeah.
I'm just saying it for the audience. What brings you to Science for Progress? Like, what is your main idea of that you want to have addressed in our organization?
Well, the idea came to my head when you started talking about the science march and the idea that the general public, not only in Portugal but around the world, needs to be more in contact with the scientific community, but not in just one way as science communication experts are doing right now, but also to let them know why science is important, right? Because that's one of the biggest issues we have nowadays, because there's a lot of taboos in science that only intelligent people need to work in science, and they don't even bother to learn more about certain topics and just accept what people throw at them. And I think we should give them some necessary tools to critically think about each and every topic that is necessary for their lives, so they can, go to the voting ballot and know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. That's the most important part. And what I want to do is I want to contribute to that in various different ways. One is going to be more as a liaison, as accompanying the process until the events, and then helping more related to the relation between what we're going to present to the people that are going to go there.
So you're a people person.
I'm a people person, yes.
Very good.
Exactly. And another part is more related to science communication as well. I want to be a part in science communication. I want that to be an important value in my career in some way. And it has been over the few years gaining some importance as well. However, I'm not exactly 100% happy with that. Right now, I'm trying to find a good balance between science, what I want to do in my life in the future, and how science communication will help me to do that.
Mm-hmm. When you're talking about the future, you don't want to be just a researcher. You want to do, or actually, you're a bioengineer. Do you want to develop stuff, or do you actually want to go completely into psychom, or
that is actually a $1 million question, because I'm a biomedical engineer, of course, by heart. I'm always interested in the way that, first of all, why did I get into biomedical engineer? Because I was interested in neuroscience. I was interested in certain parts of biology and medicine, and wanted to incorporate that in one single topic. However, I didn't want to leave physics and math out of the question as well. So I thought that an engineering course would be ideal, but then biomedical engineering appeared. However, my expectations got lower and lower by each year, which is interesting, because what I was seeing is that we were being treated more as data analysts and not hands-on as I expected to be in neuroscience. What I'm doing right now in my master thesis, I'm doing hands-on, doing data analysis and data interpretation, and not that's not what normal people in my area are doing right now. They just appear, they analyze data that people put in front of them, and they have to deal with that in a way. I can't deal with that. I need to get the results. I need to have my scientific question, and I need to be the person to answer it.
So the in job right now for bioengineers would still be data scientists?
A lot of my colleagues right now doing master thesis, and a lot of them that finished right now, have two options mainly. They go to data analysis, or they go into more corporate side of the engineering side. You know, they work in Novabase, they work in venture here in Lisbon, and I don't want to do any of that. Or I like some advantages of each. However, I don't think I'm going to be 100% happy in any of them. I want to have, as you said, an investigating part. I want to be a professor someday. And I want science communication to incorporate both of them. I want to be a good investigator. Maybe I'll be a PI. Maybe I'll be a professor. Who knows? But I'm going to always be in contact with science. Yeah. Not only in neuroscience. Neuroscience is a big yes right now. Could not be a big yes a couple of years from now. But it would always be.
You're still young.
And I'm still young, exactly. I don't want to say I'm going to do this until my entire life, because that never happens normally.
Yeah. What exactly are you doing in your master thesis right now?
So what I'm doing right now is to incorporate one photon imaging microscopy, in trying to visualize complex spike activity in climbing fibers in the cerebellum. So, first of all, the cerebellum has a very simple and very repetitive cellular structure along its general structure. And what I'm trying to see is trying to observe the activity of one type of neuron called the climbing fibers that are responsible for motor learning. And
that activity is the spikes that you've been talking about before.
I want to see them in this one photon microscopy, try to see them and try to find some parameters like firing rate, or I want to see if certain spatial patterns are getting activated as well during activity. And that's the general goal of what I'm doing. But what am I trying to answer? I'm trying to see what's the responsibility of these neurons? What are they exactly doing? That we know that they have a certain feedback loop related to motor learning, and that as they send an error signal to the general circuit. But how exactly does that happen? We're still not 100% certain. So I'm trying to, in my 1 year investigating, trying to get to a point that we can, diverge a little bit. So yeah.
Right. And this is done in mice.
And this is done in mice, exactly, in the FameLab at the Champalimaud Foundation.
Before we continue with part 2 of this episode, I have a short announcement. Science for Progress is just getting started. We are still looking for motivated people to join our cause. Do you, like us, think that important decisions and actions are delayed by parties with agendas that are not supported by empirical evidence? If so, and you want to help make a difference, shoot us a message. If you are not ready to jump in fully, or just want to keep track of our activities, follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram under @Sci4Progress, and check out our website under scienceforprogress.eu. Now let's move on to part 2 of this episode, where we talk about an issue chosen by our guest.
I want to talk about science communication. And one event that I participated in this year, that was FameLab, Communicating Science. FameLab is an international competition. Main idea is quite simple. You have 3 minutes to communicate a scientific topic. And what you have to do in those 3 minutes is try to be the most original, the most captivating, and also the scientifically correct in what you're saying. So this happens in 80 to 100 nations around the world. And there is an international final in the UK at a festival. It's about science communication every year. And what's the most interesting thing about FameLab here in Portugal is that I did not know about FameLab 1 week before the entries for the competition ended.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And
so you had to sign up just a week after you even heard of it?
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's really interesting because I was talking to a professor of mine that I just ended a presentation of a course I had with a professor. And they said, you would be interested in this competition called FameLab. And I said, what? What is
He just told you that you're interested?
He just said, well, maybe you would be interested in this. I said, what do you know about that? I said, oh, no, I just read an article in Facebook. So I'm going to send you that article.
Oh, wow.
So the professor sent me the article. I said, you know what? Why not? But what did the deadline until that specific week? What did I do to enter the competition? I needed to film a small video, 3 minutes, of course, talking about a topic. The topic I chose was the cerebellum, which I was studying, of course. So I thought, might as well. I'm into the area, so I could, kind of simplify things and find a way to attract people.
Oh, so you were already at Champalimaud when that happened?
Yeah, because I was at Champalimaud for my summer internship. And then that
was 2016.
That was 2016. Then 2016 and 2017, I was finishing the first year of my master's before I started my thesis. And this was in February of 2017, so this year. And I sent the video 2 days before the deadline ended. And it was really rough. My sister filmed it. You can see in the video that she was not very stable. I was not very stable as well. I was trying to find a way of fitting everything in 3 minutes. And it was really interesting. I find a way to explain the cerebellar structure using an analogy of different types of roads. You have a highway that are the general neurons of our body, and then when you get to the cerebellum, you take a little more national roads, and then you'll get to more regional roads. Then you get to the post office that are the deep cerebellar nuclei.
Oh wow! I never thought of these things in this.
And then the deep cerebellar nuclei gets this information, tries to interpret this, and then sends the letters to different types of brain areas, like the motor structure.
But nuclei are also brain areas, right? So
yeah, exactly. So different types of areas like the motor structure, more in the motor cortex and everything. So I tried to do that. However, it was very difficult to find it to be captivating and staying scientifically formal. That is the problem I have with FameLab, is that we have 3 minutes. In those 3 minutes, you have to be concise. You have to be talking slowly, which I have some problems in when I get very, very excited. And you need to attract as many people, attract the attention of as many people as you can. And while you're doing this, you need to make them learn something.
Right.
The more you teach, the better, but you can't teach as much.
Right.
So you need to find a balance. That balance is not very easy to achieve. So the video was accepted. I went to the semifinal, which was 20 people in the morning, 20 people in the afternoon. And you have to do exactly the same presentation in the video to a live audience.
Oh, okay.
It was really interesting because there was a person from British Council, that was the principal organizer of FameLab, a person from Ciência Viva, and then an invited guest that was the previous winner. That was a neuroscientist.
Oh, so he knew what you were talking about.
Exactly. So more pressure on me. So I presented in...
Or she.
Yeah, she. I presented in the semifinal. I was a little bit jittery. I did not know how to control my hands when I speak. I get very emotional. I don't have consciousness over my emotions and movements.
Your expressions.
My expressions.
Very natural.
Yeah, so I just walk around the stage doing this and this, so people were not very listening to what I was saying, but more seeing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that was the most important critique I had, and the most I learned from, is that I now in more serious events know what to do with my hands so they can be controlled. I need to articulate better. I can talk slowly and think about what I'm going to say. However, this, of course, does not work as well. So it really depends on the circumstance.
Yeah.
I'm getting better as the podcast goes, I think.
So one problem that I always have is that you have to boil it down and I think a lot of people don't understand that when we talk to the public, we have a lot of detail in our head that we think that is important for our own work, but not necessarily for the understanding of a lay person. So when we are talking to them, then we have to think about what do I leave out, because it would just unnecessarily increase the complexity of what you're talking about, so that people have it easier to follow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's also something that you said it before. I mean,
yes. I feel like it really depends on the public you're talking to, of course.
Yeah.
Over that, but I think every scientist needs to learn the power of editing of what you're saying. It really depends. If you're talking to a general public, I think generally 50% should be left out, because only the main topics should be talked about and explored with them, so they can have a gist of what you're saying, and then they can learn more from that.
Right.
If you're talking basics down.
Yeah.
If you're talking to children, 80% of editing would be done, because they don't care about protocols. They don't care about data. They don't care about interpretation. They get about the basis of the basis. What are we doing in neuroscience? No, what are we doing in biology in this area? Why is the bird important to us? Why is studying the mouse important to us? I'm not saying dumb it down, because we're never dumbing it down. We're simplifying it in a way that everyone understands.
Right.
But that's one thing I learned from it. And one critique I got from the final, that I passed to the final, is that I simplified it too much.
Too much, yeah.
I did an analogy in decision making that was basically a meeting in a round table of 3 chairs. You have the prefrontal cortex, you have this limbic system, etc., different brain areas that are supposedly responsible for a decision. And they said that in real life, that's more complicated. Of course it is.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about all of the neural connections that are happening during decision making. I'm trying to find the basis for when people can understand.
Right.
Yeah. And then from that, they can learn more.
Yeah. But it's tricky. I mean, you can simplify it to a point where it becomes wrong.
Exactly.
Or you can choose a metaphor that doesn't really fit. You, for some reason, think it's good because it explains one aspect of the thing. But then when you take into account that the audience might use this metaphor in a different context, like they think about what you told them, and you told them this metaphor in this one context, and then take this metaphor with them when they talk about the same thing in a different context where the metaphor doesn't work anymore. And that's where fundamental misunderstandings can arise.
Exactly. That's the
So this
main
is a really,
problem.
I never know what to do about that.
Yeah, that's the thing, because when you're talking to the general public, you try to simplify as much as you can, find these analogies that some analogies work perfectly fine, and they're simple enough that they cannot be taken out of context, as you were saying. But others, it really depends on the topic. If you're choosing a topic like I chose, like it's decision making, which is still very uncertain and still in works, and not a lot of people know about it. That can happen. And one thing I would change from the final, I would choose something much more simple to talk to them. I wouldn't talk about decision making. I would talk about, for example, the neuron. Why is the neuron the fundamental cell of the nervous system, for example? That's simple. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
In a certain way.
Yeah.
But...
And you don't want to complicate it by saying, yes, there are tons of other cells in the brain too, because mostly we focus on neurons, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. But then what I had in my head at the time, because I didn't want to win per se, I was happy enough to participate. It was an excellent opportunity.
So how was that? How is it set up? So you have you go there and you have to catch the attention of the audience. How? I mean, aren't they coming there to listen to you?
Okay, that's actually a really cool question, because there's different ways to do science communication in FameLab, because you only have those 3 minutes. You need to catch the attention from start to finish. So a lot of people use props. I was never a fan of props because props can go wrong. You can take up a prop and the person on the back line will not see it as much and will not interpret it as you intend it to be. Or you have a sequence that is very precise regarding time and everything. So it can go wrong in that aspect. So I tend not to use props. A lot of people use it and they work fine. But one thing that happened, not in our final, but in a lot of finals that I can see on YouTube, I studied them, of course,
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
So you can find them on YouTube.
You can find it on YouTube. You have the UK finals. You have the Portuguese finals as well. However, they are in Portuguese. Everything is in Portuguese.
Yeah.
You have the UK finals. You have the Indian finals that are really, really interesting, and also in English as well. What happened in some finals is that you expected something wow from those props. You use them, you put them down. People are expecting more from them.
Yeah.
So that's a bad use of props.
Oh, okay.
So you can use props to, okay, this is the first intention, initial attention. And then you start talking and then dissipating them. So you get to be the center of attention now. Or you can use the props and the prop is the center of the attention, not what you're saying. That's some kind of problems that can happen. That the context of the prop is badly misunderstood with the public. The props don't go as well, or you're not the center of attention.
Yeah,
that is a problem in these competitions.
The people are distracted by the prop because it's like a ventriloquist. Yeah.
Exactly. One thing that was interesting is that one friend of mine that passed through the finals, she was talking about the concussions. And what brain area, I didn't remember what she talked about, that when it goes abruptly against the skull, it gets you could get with a concussion and feel dizzy and everything. So she went
throw up and forget the last 3 minutes. And things like that. Yeah.
So what she did was really intelligent. Is that she got a little motor of stars going around her. It was really interesting.
Like a comic character.
Like a comic character. However, one thing I told her is that the motor was extremely loud. So it was really funny in the initial approach. Oh, okay, that's funny. And she's talking about concussions. So I'm interested. But then I personally got distracted with the stars. So only at half of the presentation, she turned it off so I can listen, but I was kind of lost. But in general, it was an excellent presentation. But yeah, it can go wrong.
Right. So what did you do?
So what I did was use only me. On the semifinal, I brought a little brain, those stress balls in form of the brain to show them in the cerebellum, just so the back of the brain and everything. Yeah. It was just to
They're probably not anatomically correct though, right?
Yeah, of course not. There's no cerebellum in the stress ball. But on the final, I talked about the power of decision, and the title of my presentation was cake or fruit? That's the question.
Cake or fruit?
Cake or fruit. Because every time we go to a restaurant, we have to make a decision. Or we go the healthy decision.
It's very easy. It's always cake.
Always cake, exactly. That was my conclusion. Well, I always choose cake. What are you going to choose? And one thing people told me is that, why didn't you bring, container? Those flashy moments where you show what's under case number A, case number B. Yeah. I would bring one in the initial part of the presentation.
Like a lunchbox?
Like a lunchbox. Completely black lunchbox. Put it on the side. Don't mention it at all. Then at the end, open it and then reveal what's my decision. And start eating the cake. That was actually a really good idea.
Oh, nice.
And that happened. That suggestion appeared 5 minutes after my talk. I got really sad about it. But that's a good use of prop because you get their attention saying, what he's going to do with that? And you continue talking. They're still saying, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Of course, it's not that, intensive emotion, but there's a little tweak. They're expecting it. So that's a use of prop. Yeah.
So, and then how do they judge it? Does the audience have anything to do with the judging, or is it just like a committee of 3 people, or?
Well, in the semifinal, it was a committee of 3 people, one from Ciência Viva, British Council, a guest, and then you have the neuroscientist. And in this case, the audience didn't have any input. There was a public award at the final that was the most popular.
Okay, the popular vote.
The popular vote won. And that is interesting. If you cap their attention, of course you're going to win. Or if you bring most people, you're going to win as well. It really depends. So,
we now want to know, did you win?
I did not win.
You did not win.
But my friend Ruben won. He talked about the consumption of monkeys in Africa and how people eat monkeys in Africa. And he studies ecology. So it was really interesting, and he deserved it more than everything. And what I did not think was fair was that
you don't have to be jealous on the podcast.
No, of course not. And the person who won, which was Ovid, was completely correct. He did an excellent presentation. He deserved it. However, the critiques were very general because not very specific, not clear. Or yes, they all said too
foggy.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't tweak at that. They said, "Oh, I really liked your presentation. Some things bugged me, like this." I said, "Okay, good," and then said, "But in general, was good. I would change some things." But yeah, it was good. And then
that's kind of like we were talking about in the car when we got here. We were talking about people sugarcoating their critique so that it doesn't sound too harsh. But then it's not really helpful anymore.
It's not really helpful. A lot of them were helpful, but then it were very general, and they asked the question in English. And I didn't prepare my presentation in English. Of course, these types of 3 minutes presentations, you need to prepare not every syllable, but you need to time it perfectly. I trained in Portuguese, of course. So the question they asked me in English was very complex because they asked me to give my presentation in English.
What? They just asked you to give it again in English?
No. They asked me, can you explain to me what you just told me? The analogies and everything. Of course, not the whole presentation, but can you explain it in English?
Wow, so you also have to be very good bilingual speaker?
And of course, I don't have a lot of problems with the English language, but I got put under the bus a little bit. And I said, well, of course I can. And I started trying to explain, trying to put things together in English, trying to translate everything. And then I was using my hands more. And then the guy said, why did you use more your hands while you're talking in English and not in Portuguese? And my answer was, because I didn't prepare in English. If people would say, prepare in Portuguese and in English, I would present it just like I did in Portuguese, but in English. He said, that's a problem you have. And I got,
what?
That doesn't...
That's a weird thing to say if you're in Portugal.
Well, okay. He was English, so...
Yeah. So your English is pretty good. How come?
Well...
Is there a story behind it?
There is a story behind it, because since I was in preschool, my parents wanted to put me in an English school. So I didn't learn Portuguese until I was 8. So English was my first language until I started my Portuguese lessons, but I was horrible at Portuguese. I talked to my parents in English. They tried to talk Portuguese with me. I had a tutor in Portuguese. It was very, very
But you
hard.
were living in Lisbon.
I was living in Lisbon.
So
and
all your friends must have been speaking Portuguese, no?
Well, because my friends were basically in the English school, and the English school didn't allow us to talk in Portuguese.
Oh, yeah,
So-
because they wanted you to practice your English.
Exactly.
Thinking that you would be speaking Portuguese at home. That's unfortunate.
and I had like 45 minutes per week in a Portuguese
yeah.
class. So I didn't, well, what happened was my parents didn't have the economic status to maintain me in that school. So they took me out in 5th grade. So I just entered the Portuguese school out of nowhere. Here we go. I don't know how to speak Portuguese well. And so I started, in a Portuguese school. And what happens in Portuguese schools? The English is not well taught.
It's not well taught.
No.
That's astonishing because so many Portuguese people speak very well.
Well, it really depends on the professor, of course, in everything. But in the 6th grade, I was still learning simple phrases that I learned in my 2nd year. And a lot of my colleagues didn't want to speak in English. They didn't find it appealing. They didn't find the importance of it. And I finished my tests in 15 minutes because it was super
the
simple.
English test,
The English test in
you were a
English.
native speaker basically.
Yeah,
right?
but then I didn't have the practice.
Yeah.
So all these years, I didn't have the practice. I lost my native accent. I lost my native practice. So I still make a lot of errors in English.
Right.
I'm still trying to find a good equilibrium between Portuguese and English. Gladly, I can have a perfectly fine conversation in English.
Yeah.
That's what saved me a lot in a couple of years.
Right.
So yeah, I have that advantage. But a lot of people that weren't in the English school have perfectly good English. So that's actually good.
Okay. So back to FameLab.
Back to FameLab, yeah. So between the semifinal, who gets selected to the final gets to go on a masterclass.
Okay.
Masterclass over a whole weekend. That is with Malcolm Love, which was an ex-director of the BBC.
Oh.
Which is a science communicator by heart, an expert that gives classes around the world to all the FameLab finalists.
BBC, so you can see him on TV?
I don't think he works
video?
as an anchor or publicly in a TV matter. I think he only works in a more scientific and out of the public eye thing right
So
now.
he's in the background.
He's in the background now, yes, mostly.
Telling people how to do it, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
He's giving these workshops on scientific communication and how to work well as a team and everything. He's an excellent person. I loved meeting him. He's a really good professional. I loved the masterclass. I learned a lot. One thing he told me right from the start is that you use your hands a lot. Edit that. Don't hide them.
Yeah.
Because it seems like you have something to hide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's actually interesting.
I never thought about
because
that.
if you're giving a talk and you have your hands behind your back, people will get uncertain about you. And
they think you have a prop behind them.
yeah, exactly. Or for example, and one thing he told me is that some people have these tics or have these things like I have moved my hands a lot, but it's very general. He told me about this guy that he gives lessons about, that every time he finished a topic or every time he finished a paragraph or a section of his talk, he would just hit his leg like that, congratulating him. And when Malcolm mentioned this to him, he said, "Oh, I didn't notice."
He didn't notice at all. He's slapping himself.
He's slapping himself, congratulating his good work so far.
Yeah.
And this is really important because people have these little tics, have these little, things to calm themselves while giving the presentations. And now I feel much more at ease in every type of presentation I have because the more people are listening to me, the calmer I feel.
Right.
If I'm giving a presentation to only one person, for example, this conversation, I feel I need to be careful what I'm saying and everything. When I'm talking to 20 people, I'm just saying it. It comes naturally.
It's like an anonymous group and you don't care
Exactly.
anymore.
I'm not going to see...
Don't you want to be
It's not that I don't care about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. Is that I'm more confident in how I'm saying it and what I'm saying.
So that's what you learned over this weekend.
Yes, is how to edit what I'm saying, how to feel.
With edit, you mean take it out?
Yeah, take out certain things that aren't there helping you, or
avoid habits, distracting habits.
Exactly that.
Okay.
And for example, we had a lot of exercises in self-confidence and not being ashamed of what you're saying, or be aware that one thing that he told me that was extremely important that I didn't even think about is that you need to maintain eye contact with every person in the room. Of course, you can't just look at a person for like 5 minutes, because the person will feel that you're
very uncomfortable. Yeah.
You're uncomfortable. But if you maintain a steady contact with every person in the room, they feel that they are there, and you're talking to individuals.
Right.
Individuals.
Yes.
And you're not talking to a screen. You're not talking to a wall.
Right.
And I did that, and that helps a lot. So
right.
I'm not saying that...
You have something to do, right? With your eyes.
Yes,
exactly. That's how I felt. I feel more natural when I do that, because I have something to look at.
Exactly.
And it's something different, and you can look around and
you don't distract by that. You just feel, okay, this is a part of it, so I'm talking, and then your presentation is over, basically.
Right.
Another thing that he told me that helped a lot is that don't smile because you need to. Don't have that awkward smile that needs to be there during the whole presentation. If you stop talking, think, return.
Right.
Don't force a smile. If you're there because you love to be there, the smile will come. If you're there and you feel tired, or you feel like you don't want to be there, you don't feel the importance of being there, the presentation will not go as well, because you're not that connected with the audience.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that the smile is the most important. The smile needs to come naturally. You need to come naturally. Don't create a facade. Don't create... For example, of course, I present differently when I'm talking at these events that I do in a meeting with my PI. But that doesn't mean that I'm...
Your PI is your boss.
My principal investigator, sorry. I don't go to her and be completely formal and change the way I present. I'm going to present to her, of course, be more careful and putting more science into it, and extract
all the science
into it and extract the storytelling. But I'm not going to change the way I present, because it's unique to myself. I'm a very enthusiastic person. I love to present. When I need to present things that are interesting, I love to do it. I feel like, okay, I'm going to do this like a bomb. I'm going to present it to him. I'm going to look at him and say, see, it was amazing. And I'm not going to change that because I'm doing a scientific presentation. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit to not simplify it. I'm not going to simplify it. I'm not going to explain a story, but I'm going to put parts of my personality in it. And that's what people are going to remember at the end of the day.
So how many people were there at that workshop?
At that workshop was the 12 finalists. Actually, supposedly it was going to be 10 finalists, but they found 12 amazing people that they couldn't decide. So 12 people were there from different parts of Portugal, different areas of interest in science. One of them was in philosophy, I believe, which was really cool. So we got to mingling, we got to networking, and we wanted to do something like Science for Progress.
So you're still in contact?
We're still in contact. We're still talking. We maintain friends. That's the most important. And we still maintain the idea that we all want to do this. We have this in common. What can we do with this? What can we do with this group that is energetic? Everyone is excited to do something with it. But then, of course, people are in PhDs, people are in masters, people are working.
Of course,
It's very hard to start, as you know.
Of course, we're having the same problem. I'm just trying to get through it still.
Exactly. And when I found your project, I wanted to be a part of it because it was already starting.
Yes.
So the wheels were moving. I was just making them move faster.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So just for background information, I was part of the March for Science organizer team. And at the end of so after the 22nd of April, when we had the actual march, then all of a sudden nothing happened. And this was in part because the 2 weeks before, actually the whole time before, it was not a lot of time. It was quite stressful. We had to do a lot in very short time, and we all had our jobs on the side, of course. And then after the march, everybody was just tired. And there were a couple of things that we should have done for the website, for example, put in like an after stuff, and then that didn't get done. So we were all like in a hole. And then there was summer. Yeah. And we know Portuguese summer is...
August is like no one does anything.
Yeah, it's so hot. It's just... but then I thought, okay, if I don't do it now, I will just never do it.
Of course.
So, and that's obviously the situation you were in yourself. And so what I just started it. I'm on Twitter all the time. So I made a Twitter account. I made a Facebook account, group. And the Instagram.
And you made a website.
And I made a website. So, and then I had begun it, and then I couldn't stop it anymore because people knew about it, and then it would be embarrassing to stop. So,
That's a good reason to work.
Exactly. So I think it's actually, I know exactly where you're coming from. Maybe your friends, if you hear this,
they will want to participate.
Maybe they want to participate.
One more thing that I find really interesting is that when I was doing FameLab, the main thing that I couldn't get out of my head was, what if I don't win? I won't do this again, and no one will notice me and say, okay, bye, thanks you, we won't talk to you again and everything. But then, after it ended, I keep getting these invites to these events, like the European Nights of Investigators in Ciência Viva. They invited me to present there. I loved presenting there.
So you went and also...
Exactly. I prepared... They asked me to talk about technology, which was very random. I don't know what I could talk... There's a lot of things I could talk about technology. One thing I talked about was automated cars. We talked about this. And...
That's a little early for a bioengineer to talk about automated cars. Like,
I know.
We're not there yet to have bioengineered cars. It might come.
It might come, exactly. But I wanted to do a topic.
We grow a car in a tank. No,
imagine that. I wanted to talk about something in biomedical engineering, but then another friend of mine was doing a topic in health. So I was saying, so I can't do anything related to health, which is basically everything we do. So I'm gonna learn. So I just, random. I think automated cars are really cool, and I wanted to learn more about them. So I learned more about them. We'll talk about Google Car, Tesla, and everything. Yeah. The presentation, loved it. It was really cool.
Let me go back to the cars before we move on.
Yeah, of course.
Because I remember we've been talking about this before, and you wanted to address the ethical problems with automated cars.
Well, imagine that you're inside of an automated car, you're going to your destination, and then you have two different cases. One way, you have a person blindly crossing the road, and then the other way, you have 5 children crossing the road. You have to go one way. How will the car decide?
So you cannot brake. That's the main...
Well, one thing that automated cars have now is that they have an emergency wheel so that the user can... supposedly gain control in these situations, stop and choose whatever they want. However, the ideal idea of an automated car is that the car does everything.
Yeah. And also you, as a driver, you probably don't pay as much attention because you're not driving yourself. And maybe you would be too late anyway.
Exactly. Your reaction time is so much bigger because you're not paying as much attention as you would, of course, driving.
Because you're trusting the car.
Because you're trusting the car.
So this is the trolley problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. The trolley problem.
Very famous ethical problem posed by philosophers.
Would you say one person or 10 people? Of course, supposedly people would choose only to kill one person, but others say, it really depends on the person.
Okay.
So there's this ethical problem.
Do you have time to identify the person?
Exactly. Do you have time? Is it that do you need this information? Why do you need this information? Does that car can deal with this type of information? Of course, supposedly not.
So, did you speak about it, that cars need to solve ethical problems?
Well, I wanted to create a mini debate. But when I got there, I found out that the area where we were presenting was outside the building. The building has a big ramp going across so people can enter the main entrance. And there's a square in the middle of the building surrounding the ramp. And we were just talking there. People were just going from table to table with different institutes here in Portugal. And then they were just hearing us.
So it's like soapbox in a park, like you just stand there.
Exactly.
And people are not really staying with you.
Well,
they just
you can call people.
through.
You can call people. And I called people because I said, you know what? I'm not going to be here just talking to a wall. I
Right.
said, guys, please, I'm going to talk about this. Please, if you don't come, I'll come to you.
Yeah.
Something like that. So I didn't have the opportunity to create a debate. What I was going to ask is, what do you guys think? Do you think a machine should be responsible for a human life in these cases?
Right.
But then I would enter in a different type of presentation.
Right.
So I explained how automated cars work. The ideal world is we needed automated cars for example, blind people, for people that have some sort of deficiency in their body or something like that. So I in this case, I sugarcoated it because it was easy for that type of presentation. But if I was going to do a debate, of course I would enter it. I would love to have a debate like this with people.
So I always thought automatic cars, right? One of the good things about them is that they talk to each other.
There's this communication.
The communication. So traffic will be much safer because the cars can follow simple rules that make traffic really safe.
Exactly.
Whereas humans don't usually obey the rules that strictly, and they may take risks and stuff. So it's not just, help for disabled people. It can be just safer and even quicker because you could avoid traffic jams, things like that. But what would be your point in the debate? What would be your position about the ethics of?
The ethics is that it shouldn't be taken lightly. It's not a very simple and straightforward response, first of all. And one thing that we always forgetting is that this would change, for example, the transportation industry. We will lose jobs because cars can transport materials by themselves. So we have this ethical problem that normal idea and the over-explained idea over the year that the machines will take care of the human employees and take jobs.
Take away the labor force.
And that would be the easiest route. I wouldn't go there. I would go with a more philosophy route. How would we invent an algorithm for the machine to decide? And is this a decision or just an output? It's really interesting.
You can avoid this problem all over, right? If you think of Elon Musk, who wants to tunnel under, Los Angeles, I think?
Yeah.
Then you can just put all the traffic underground where there's no pedestrians. And then you don't have a trolley problem. So that would be awesome.
That would be amazing. However, we have metros.
And with this, we end today's episode of the Science for Progress podcast mini-series. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and are taking a new thought with you. Maybe you even want to hear more from us. If this is the case, follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram under @SciForProgress and check out our website scienceforprogress.eu. That's it.